Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Sharan Hildebrand. I'm Vice President of Alliances for Hitachi Solutions, and I'm also extremely honored to be the IdeaGen Chair for the City of Chicago as you join us for part of the Acceleration Summit. Today we're actually going to be talking with Lydia Kuyawa. She is the Waste Diversion Manager at Waste Management, and as part of the summit and spotlighting the importance of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, we're going to be touching on three really key ones. Number 11, sustainable cities and communities. And then we're going to move on to number 12, which is responsible consumption and production. And then all of this feeds the important number 13, what is the impact to our climate? So in a moment here, I'm going to bring Lydia on board, and you're going to hear from her opinions, her policies, experience that she brings to the table, and some really interesting vision that she has for how all of us at the individual consumer level, what can we do to actually make change and drive impact and protect our planet? So that said, I'd like to invite Lydia to the stage and we can start the conversation.
Hello, thank you very much for having me today. What an honor, thank you.
Hi, Lydia. Thanks again for investing the time. Let's just kick off by telling, can you tell us a little bit more about your background and what you do for Waste Management?
At Waste Management, I am the Waste Diversion Manager. I have been in the waste and recycling industry for over 20 years. Prior to joining Waste Management, I had my own waste and recycling consulting firm and have worked all over the country with various sizes from small to large companies trying to reduce their waste streams, try to get them to recycle more, try to have them think a little bit out of the box, and go after their consumers and the people who buy their products.
Great, excellent, big job, and quite a bit of experience you bring to the table. Dive right in, Lydia, because we've got a lot of interesting conversation to tee up for today. And I'd like to start with asking you about your opinion. Based on your experience, what do you think are the overlooked opportunities for companies when it comes to recycling today?
I think what I find with a lot of companies when I have conversations with them is that they don't really know what is in their waste stream. They don't understand the volume. It's the out of sight, out of mind mentality. They don't really associate their waste as assets. They did buy this. It came in the front door, whatever they purchased, the box, the packaging, the wrapping, they bought that when they bought the component or whatever else they're using. And now once they've removed what they needed, they've now taken that and they've put it out the back. And in their mind, it's not on their floor. They're not having to worry about it. And it goes into a black hole where someone else takes care of it for them.
Yeah, never thought about waste as an asset. What a really incredible thought, incredible idea. So when you think about waste as an asset and what they could be doing, what are the opportunities for them to take that thing, that box, that packaging that came in the front door, and what could they be doing differently with it, in your opinion?
Well, every company is focused on making money, and they make money with whatever items they're manufacturing or services that they're providing. And by doing that, they do lose interest in the secondary and tertiary aspects of their business. Waste, whether it's lunchroom waste, whether it's from the component, whether it's something that's generated from shipping, receiving, there's a lot of hands in it. And because there's so many touches, corporations and health and safety officers have a hard time wrapping their hands around what could I remove from the waste stream. So one of the things that Waste Management will do is we will come in, we will evaluate your waste stream, we will do that for you, we will gather the data, we then review that data, and then we come back to you with recommendations. And we actually even do a feasibility economical analysis and tell you, this is how much money you possibly could be saving. This is some of the low-hanging fruit. And also, let's sit down with your procurement and find out, why do we keep buying these boxes that have this funny looking foam with cones that is not recyclable?
Yeah, what a great,
Why
great
is it
point.
packaged this way? So it's tedious. Recycling is tedious. Recycling is boring. It's not sexy. And it is easier to throw it away than to say, what could I do with this? Well, this is great. This maybe can be recyclable. For example, pick something in your office and ask me if it can be recyclable. Yes, it's a golf ball. We know the golf ball has some sort of rubber material or neoprene, or it might have twine and winding, and then it has the composite core. As a golf ball, it does what it's supposed to. But if it's smashed up into millions of little pieces, what could we do with those little pieces? Could be used as an aggregate. It could be used as texturing and paint. It could be, there are a lot of companies out there, very small, but yet trying to do exactly what we're talking about. How can I take something that people are throwing away and make it into something else?
I
The
love that.
problem is volume. Where am I going to get all these golf balls? One golf ball, I'm not going to spend the money. It's the unit cost for me to recycle that golf ball. I don't get any value back. There's no ROI in it. I could get investors but I would need millions and millions of golf balls to see any type of payback. So it's hard for me to develop a technology to take care of all the golf balls in the world if I can't get the golf balls. So that means I have to work with every golf course, every manufacturer. Now I have to spread my web out and try and get people to give me the golf balls. I'm not going to spend the money and go and get every golf ball. I need them to come to me. So now you're looking at reverse logistics. And recycling is all about logistics. I can give it to you, but how are you going to give it back to me? And the problem is, many corporations just don't want to pay that added cost of doing that because it increases their cost of their component. And again, it makes them non-competitive in their industry. Another idea is, what we do at Waste Management is we maybe have that company remove that component, that item that can be recyclable from their waste stream. And if the company's willing to do that, then we can capture that with them. And by partnering with them, we might be able to find a home for it. But again, if you're in Euclid, Texas, and the recycler is in New York, it doesn't make sense to ship it out there, because not only logistically will it be expensive, but if you're doing any type of carbon footprint metric tracing, it just skews your numbers for trying to reduce carbon emissions.
So Lydia, that was a fascinating answer. I mean, being able just to pick a random item, a golf ball off my desk, and for you to then share with us the different ways it can be broken down and then actually be put to good was pretty amazing. Also, I can appreciate how many of those golf balls you need to make it financially interesting for a company to actually move forward with that initiative. What, really curious, what other items can be recycled that our audience watching right now would never imagine could be?
Well, the essence is, from a consumer standpoint, we tell you what we can take right now. And the reason we tell you post-consumer, your milk jugs, your PET bottles, your newspapers, magazines, your yogurt containers, even milk cartons. We give every community a list of what we can handle. And we give you that list because it is what we can handle. Our technology does that efficiently. And because of that, we keep costs down to the consumer for sorting out those materials. Because remember, you don't sort them out. You just put them all together and off to the curb they go. We have to sort them out on the back end. And then we have to give the quality to those items so that we are able to give them to vendors who then can recycle them into the same containers or into something else. On the post-manufacturing, post-industrial, it's totally different. There is no technology in place that's going to sort an ABS plastic from a polyester or a laminated paper from a piece of cardboard. It doesn't, on that side, it doesn't exist because the end markets in the post-industrial segment are very focused on that particular specific commodity. I am a plant that only handles cardboard. I can only take cardboard. I can't take plastics. I can't take glass. I only want cardboard. I am a facility that only takes PET. And again, this isn't PET bottles from post-consumer. It's PET industrial because I go ahead and I make an industrial product. PET post-consumer gets usually made into more post-consumer products. So there's two facets to the recycling industry, industrial and consumer. The plastics aren't always amenable. They are very different, so they have to be treated differently. On the post-manufacturing side, there's usually volume. There's a lot of volume. And because of that, that manufacturer can focus on sorting. And we prefer them to do that because in the long run, not only them, but us benefit from them doing that. If we have to do that, it's a cost to us, which we have to pass on to the customer. Our goal is always to try to reduce your waste streams. And by doing that, you will reduce your costs. You don't recycle to make money. You recycle to save money and to be more sustainable and to have an effect on the environment. And everything that is made takes electricity, takes water, might take trees, might take natural resources. So every time something's manufactured, a little bit of that is taken from the earth. We try to put back, but unfortunately, it has to go back into the same type of product that it came from. Paper gets recycled, right? Paper gets recycled and recycled. But you look at a piece of paper from a tree and you look at a piece of paper that's been recycled, there's integrity, there's quality. People like white paper. They don't want a piece of paper with black dots on it to write all their memos on. So the paper has to be bleached. The paper, again, why is all this done? Because the consumer wants it. The consumer basically dictates what happens.
So I'm sitting here feeling extremely guilty for liking white paper. Definitely going to make me rethink the importance of that for the grocery list and notes and such. So sustainable goal number 11 is focused on sustainable cities and communities. And you talked a lot about the issues, a lot of the problems we have is companies wanting to cater to their consumer because at the end of the day, that helps their top line. But as consumers, what can we do? And when you think even locally, sustainable cities and communities, we're thinking about Chicago. What can the people in their different communities do or think differently to help support that goal number 11 of sustainable cities and communities?
Well, especially in the city of Chicago, a lot of condo owners and other building associations have green teams that they form where they get a coordination of several of the tenants or several of the vendors that reside, restaurants, so forth. They meet every month. They talk about what more the tenants can do, what more recycling that they want to promote, and also how do they reduce their waste costs? How do they maybe get smaller containers, educate their tenants, educate the customers that visit the retail outlets that are in those buildings. The city of Chicago, the Building Association, BOMA, is very, very aggressive on promoting sustainable methodology, reducing waste costs, educating tenants, property managers, and retailers that go into these buildings to try and reduce that carbon footprint. Many property management companies, that is their number one priority, is to get tenants that are totally on board with being a green tenant, and to do that, promoting the programs that they have tried to pass on.
Okay. Speaking of consumers, you and I had an interesting conversation recently about a bag of chips. I was enlightened. I love you to enlighten everyone else.
Well, the question came, we talked about, oh, can this be recycled? Can that be recycled? Well, everything can be recycled. But when you look at packaging, and packaging has gotten a lot of publicity, especially with, plastics in the ocean, this and that, so on and so forth. And it's a product from petroleum. We take it, it's a raw material, which we make into all sorts of things. But here, when you're in the grocery store and you look at what you purchase, and if you buy, for instance, chips, these are the best chips in the world. You're not going to eat any other chips but these. You buy the chips. Then you look at the packaging. There's a foil laminate inside. There's a composite laminate out. There's printing with inks that aren't water soluble. So the packaging itself is not recyclable, but it's packaged that way so that it looks good. Also, because it helps extend the shelf life. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to put bags of potato chips on a shelf where they're only going to last a week, because that store is not going to keep those chips, because then they have nowhere to go once they've expired. They have to throw them away. The chip company isn't going to take them back. So to prolong that shelf life, companies have come up with different compositions of various types of bags so that the consumer, when they take it home, got a month and a half that these chips will be good if I can keep the bag closed.
Got it.
Everything is about that. It's about making the consumer happy, because they want you to buy their chips.
So maybe rethink my favorite chip bag now and see if there's something that's a little more easier to recycle, a little more fair to the planet. So
there's a couple companies that there were a couple companies that have attempted to do that. And I don't know if they've been totally successful, because the packaging is noisy. It's very, very noisy, because they had to use a different type of plastic that was more accountable. Now, is that something that you can put into your recycle bin, and will your waste management of the world be able to capture that? I would need millions of them. Again, I need volume to make it worth my while to sort it out. I can't just take one chip bag out. It's not efficient for me.
Yeah, makes sense. So when we think about this, leads me to another question that and conversation you and I have had. When we think about the items that aren't sustainable and where they go, those items that go to a landfill. Obviously, landfills are what they are. I drive past them in the greater Chicagoland area all the time. Can you tell us a little bit more about them, and maybe kind of the love-hate people have with them? I mean, they're a necessary thing, but what are companies and organizations doing to landfills, manage the landfills responsibly, and even find a way to have them contribute locally to their communities?
Well, here at Waste Management, all our landfills meet state and federal compliance standards. Nobody can just go out in their backyard and dig a hole and just start throwing stuff in. There'd be violations left and right. So when you own a piece of real estate like we do, we have to manage it meticulously. We have to monitor it on a daily basis. We have to only take in what we're allowed to take in, no more, no less. It has to be covered at the end of each day. And then the landfills that we no longer operate, that are closed because we've met our permit limitations, they are also monitored. As the waste inside these landfills starts to decompose, they let out methane, they let out leachate. The methane is actually an energized gas that we capture and we put through turbines and generate electricity from it, which then goes on to the local grid. Leachate is the liquid that eventually develops because of there's no air in the landfill. And this actually gets pumped off and can used in anaerobic or aerobic type of applications. The overall goal is to have this be a loop, that nothing ever escapes, that everything that does gets captured and reused in some sustainable way. I would have to say that our landfills, after 30 years, have been used as golf courses. We use them as parks. They usually are given back to the community in some way, and constantly monitored from a distance.
That brings a lot of calm and peace when I think about landfills, because I think it's easy to associate the word landfill with something that's negative, but it sounds like your company and organizations are following through on some very concentrated, thoughtful efforts to make sure that there's never a negative impact to the environment or the climate that they're around. So as far as we talked a lot about the need to have volumes of things and to sort recyclables, and what it takes to scoop up something that may or may not be sustainable, figure it out, and then give it a home or maybe a second life. That requires resources. When we think about COVID, can you talk a little bit about the impact that you've seen both in the Chicagoland area and beyond, about how COVID has impacted the recycling industry?
Well, quite a few customers in the Chicago area, once they reopened up, looked at their costs because they'd been down and they were looking at ways to cut their costs. And some of them have actually eliminated their recycling programs because of the cost. And also to the fact that they did not have enough staffing to make the program positive. People do get charged if their recycling has trash in it. We don't want that. We want clean recycling. And to do that, it takes an effort on the customer's part. Unfortunately, if there's no employees to help them out, it's a feeble attempt. It's not going to be successful. So a few companies have decided at this time to no longer recycle. They just don't have the staff to help them.
Yeah, extremely disappointing. Just when you think that you've heard everything, every list of negative impact from the pandemic, recycling is one that makes sense the way you explain it, but that I would never imagine would have been so dramatically influence and impact.
But I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you realize that that's the culture, that's the thought process that shows you the value that people have about recycling? It's kind of like an afterthought. It's not on the priority list. And until it gets on the priority list, you're going to have a lot of people that want to do good, but it all comes down to economics.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So extremely important for everyone to know. That's a massively game-changing message that you just put out there that I would love to loop over and over again. I want to finish up our conversation with a little bit of fun and on a high. If you think about examples of things that are recycled but people don't realize, I got from product A to product B. What are some fun, cool examples that we can educate people just on the scale and ability to recycle something and what its second or third life actually could end up being?
Well, from a consumer standpoint, everything that from the milk cartons to the detergent bottles to your PET bottles to your glass bottles, paper of any type, cardboard, those all get basically remade into the same type of products. Your large beverage companies, your large paper companies are required by the government and even by other customers to have a certain amount of recycled content in it. So that is a great segue into how there's incentive. There's incentive to recycle because, gee, if I want to sell paper, it has to have 50% recycled content in it. So how do I do that? I go ahead and I capture and pull out recycled paper to make more paper. Same thing with the detergent bottles and glass. On the post-industrial side, some manufacturers will accept a certain amount of recycled content in their products, and they like to advertise that. I'm currently working with a customer that somehow wants to capture all the plastic sheds it manufactures. When the customer no longer wants those plastic sheds, they want to capture all those plastic parts to have them come back to their manufacturing facility and recycle that. They hope that that customer buys another one of their plastic sheds. But that's a great idea. The problem is logistics. How do you package up this plastic shed? How does this plastic shed, does it have to be cut up? How much work does the consumer have to do to get something like this recycled? So corporations are starting to think about that, but it's logistics. It all is logistics. That's really what it comes down to.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. So, Lydia, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be with us today and participate in the Acceleration Summit. This conversation has been extremely enlightening and informative and educational, and I do hope that our audience and the folks watching this get the same type of insights and honestly personal motivation to think not just once but twice when I'm making choices, when I get a little lazy and I just want to put the glass bottle in my kitchen garbage bag instead of my recycling bin.
It's that whole it takes a village type thing. You could do it just yourself, but you need yourself times 10 million to really make the impact that needs to be done. But let your members and audience know that they can feel free to reach out to me at any time about any question. There's no stupid recycling questions. So I do have a vast amount of resources I could guide them to, or I can let them know what their choices are.
Outstanding. And Lydia can be reached at LKUYAWA@WM.com. Lydia Kuyawa from
Hope to hear from you.
Yeah.
Save the planet.
Seek her out on LinkedIn. Thank you again for the time and appreciate all of your valuable words of wisdom and insight, Lynn.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.